Hello everyone, DDubs here, and today I'm bringing you a build that I am currently working on, which is going to be a Berserker Frost Blades character. If you do just want to check out the path of building and don't really care about the rest of the video, I will go ahead and put a link to that in the description below. But if you do want to see the build in action or just want to come hang out, you can always feel free to follow me over at Twitch, which is where I stream whenever I get a chance. Not super consistent, but I do try to stream most weekdays, especially with all of COVID going on. I do have a lot more free time than usual. So that's going to be over at twitch.tv/hardstuckaverage. Anyways, so let's go ahead and get into the build. Obviously right now you can see sheet DPS isn't very high, but once we proc all of those, we are at about 125,000 sheet DPS. Obviously this isn't saying too much, as we are the Berserker Ascendancy. Being a Berserker Ascendancy, pretty much what this means is the more shit that we kill and shit that we punch in the face, the more damage we are going to be doing. So we go ahead and we take Rage. This is going to stack up to 50, and each point of Rage gives us 1% increased attack damage. Each 2 Rage gives us 1% increased attack speed, and each 5 Rage gives us 1% movement speed, which means we are going to be hitting a lot faster and a lot harder just from that, and obviously we're going to be moving at the speed of light. The other node we take as being Berserker to take advantage of all these lovely new cluster jewels down here, which I will go over shortly, is the Warbringer. Pretty much what this does is this negates, not necessarily negates, but it frees up a flask slot for 2 flask slots if you do use a mana flask. I haven't really got around to replacing mine yet, but you can actually have all 5 damage and defense flasks, because this is going to let us recover 25% of life and mana whenever you use a Warcry. And the way that I have everything set up, I have a 1.5 second cooldown on my Warcries, so I'm pretty much Warcrying non-stop. Next thing, it also on top of that increases Warcry cooldown recovery speed, but it also gives us even more increased attack speed, and it also gives us a chance to deal double damage, which is huge, especially with Frost Blades, which doesn't necessarily do a whole lot of damage in the first place, but as fast as we're attacking with 15% chance to deal double damage, we have a lot of hits that have the chance to do double damage. Next thing, we pick up Flawless Savagery. Gives us increased crit strike chance for attacks, adds 20 to 30 physical damage if you've dealt a crit recently, which is pretty much always, and 25% crit strike multiplier. And lastly, we also pick up Blitz. This is not going to be an increased attack speed, but more attack speed for each Blitz charge, and we can get up to 20 Blitz charge, which means we can hit up to 40% more attack speed, which is insane. So once we're ramped up, we're attacking a lot. And even though it does give us 10% reduced critical strike chance per blitz charge as fast as we are attacking, there's going to be a crit in there somewhere, I can promise you that. As far as the skill tree goes, this is kind of what I have. Pretty much the big ones here. Make sure you pick up some life, accuracy, more accuracy, and crit strike. An important one for this build is definitely the battle cry. This makes our Warcries instant, which means that you can literally sit here and swing and you will still cast your Warcry, and you don't have to worry about that getting interrupted. Next thing we pick up, Art of the Gladiator. This makes us ignore all movement penalties from armor, which is huge as a Marauder and as an armor user, as otherwise this armor would be slowing us way the F down. Next thing, since we are playing Frost Blades, only 60% of our damage is converted to cold damage, which means we're going to want to come over here and pick up Weapon Cold Damage and Winter Spirit, as this is going to convert the rest of our damage to cold damage, which means we are running 100% cold damage, and we can run Reflect maps, which is super handy. Down here we pick up more life nodes, but the big 2 here are these 2 life jewels. I'm trying to make Frost Blades do decent single target damage, so I pick up 2 Fight for Survival jewels, one of which I have a 10% increased critical strike chance corruption on. You can get these from Act 5. I do not remember exactly which quest it is, but it is a required quest. It might be the Eyes of Zeal's quest, not entirely sure, but any character you run will get a chance to grab this for free. I've played a decent amount of characters this league, so I went ahead and grabbed like 7 of these, I think, and corrupted all of them. Only got 1 implicit, which is fairly unlucky, but it's better than no implicits, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. Next thing I grab, Constitution Life Wheel, which is probably where the rest of my points are going to go to since I am only level 84. There is a little bit of extra room to do whatever you want with the build, but that's where the rest of my points are likely to go, is get a little more life. And then down here is the fun part. Cluster Jewels. As you know, 3.11, I believe, is what patch note we're on. We got Cluster Jewels, which are, or maybe we're on 310, I don't even remember. Anyways, though, other than my random, just getting off track, Cry Wolf is huge for this build, as Cry Wolf gets us, counts as 10 additional enemies nearby, even when there's no enemies nearby, which means I can Warcry and get a ton of life regen. As you can see, every time I do this, I get 953 life regen per second. And with a low life pool of only 3,200, I'm regenning about a third of my life per second. And this is on top of the 25% of life and mana whenever you use a Warcry. So pretty much, like I said, you don't really need that life flask. I'll replace it at some point, but I just haven't gotten there yet. The other important thing here is Warning Call, which I use on both of mine. The reason I use this is because it gives me a plus 35% chance to critical strike multiplier if you've Warcried recently, which is always 50% increased melee critical strike chance, and it also gives us 20% Warcry cooldown recovery speed, which allows us to have such a low cooldown. Other than that, I also grab Smite the Weak. This allows us to maim things, which is more damage, and I also grab Feel the Fight because it rolled on here with Smite the Weak, so I was like, you know what, why not? More leech, more attack speed. What's the issue? I don't see one. I go ahead and grab this node over here. I mostly grabbed it for accuracy, just because I am kind of lacking on that on this build. And I just go ahead and travel through here. If you really wanted to use a shield, I don't necessarily recommend it, but that is there for you as well if you want. Other than that, I just grab Diamond Skin. Up here, I grab the Fire Res, All Res, mostly because it's life nodes. Down here, I grab these nodes because this gives us even more life regen on top of what we already have. Plus, it gives us an additional endurance charge. Words of Glory, also a good point to pick up. And this last node is also very important, as you'll see with our gear later, but enemies chilled by your hits are shocked as well, which is going to be a giant DPS boost. With Frost Blades, and like I said, for single target, Frost Blades really needs it. Other than that though, as I will go ahead and go over the gear, I bought both of these swords for roughly an Exalt. They're about 350 DPS. The big things you're going to look for on your swords are over 1.9 attacks per 1.9 attacks per second. As you can see, these both have 1.97. And then with that, you also want to obviously have adds fizz damage and percent increased fizz damage, because that's going to stack with increased attack speed so that you can reach those fizz DPS numbers. It's very important that when you do grab your sword, make sure it is a 350 fizz DPS sword. Do not grab an elemental fizz or elemental DPS sword, as you will have a very shit build. Let me reiterate, do not use elemental DPS. This is because with Frost Blades, you are converting 60% of damage, and it deals 137 however much base damage. So you want to build up your fizz DPS as much as possible to take advantage of that base damage increase. Our links, we go ahead and take Hypothermia because with Pandemonious, we are always chilling. I will go over that here in a second. Melee Fizz, as this goes towards base damage as well. Multi-Strike, because with Frost Blades we want to be attacking ridiculously quick. Elemental damage with attacks is also very important because, like I said, we are doing 100% elemental damage due to our conversion that we did on the tree. And this last slot is kind of up to you. I decided to go with Inspiration Support because this will give us even more increased attack or increased crit strike, elemental damage, and it also reduces our mana cost. Just because, I mean, I kind of like the quality of life of not having as much cost on Frost Blades. Not really that's a big deal because we are regenerating mana so quickly, but I mean, hey, it doesn't hurt. But Inspiration, that last one's kind of up to you. Next thing, we have a helmet with increased Frost Blades damage. Frost Blades, again, I will repeat this 100 more times, needs the help for increased Frost Blades damage, so that's there for you. Pandemonious, I bought this for roughly an Exalt and allocated Tribal Fury on it. This frees us up a slot for, that way we don't have to run Ancestral Call, because that's pretty much what Tribal Fury is. Tribal Fury is this node down here, it's one of the hidden ones. Strike one additional nearby enemy, so it's not as good as Ancestral Call, but it doesn't have that damage debuff that Ancestral Call does have. Going over the rest of the gear, Tomb Fist, very important. The reason Tomb Fist is important is because this allows us to intimidate enemies on hit. If you want, you can get a Warcry that does this, but Tomb Fist pretty much does it for free, and it also gives us that increased life. So that's why that one is important there. The rest of the slots are kind of up to you. Circle of Fear, not necessarily most important gear slot, but I use it because Herald of Ice has 38% reduced mana reservation. This frees it up so I can use Precision as well, because like I said, I need the help with the accuracy, and it gives us crit chance. Belts that I go ahead and use, I just went ahead and went with a Stygian Vise. That way I could, you know, roll pretty much whatever you want on it, and then I also put max life on the jewel in there. This one has attack speed, you know, kind of you do whatever you want with the jewels. The biggest ones I recommend are fizz damage, 2 attacks with swords, life, whatever you really need on these. Attack speed is also very good. This ring, it has fizz damage, 2 attacks, pretty shitty ring for the most part, but also gives life for each enemy hit, and I crafted accuracy on it. But really, however these last few slots are rolled, kind of up to you. Boots, again, they just have movement speed, resistances, life. Those are kind of your freebies. Next, I'll go over the flasks. We go ahead and use important one, Lion Roar, huge. I think costs like 10C. Taste of Hate, I believe it's like 15C, but fizz damage is extra cold. This just kind of pairs up with the high fizz DPS that I was talking about earlier. Fizz damage gained as extra cold damage. This is just a freeze flask. Again, these two are kind of free flask slots for you. You can do whatever you want with them. Aziri's Promise, as mine is rolled around like 15-20C, I think. And this one's just kind of nice because we gain all of our fizz and elemental damage as extra chaos damage, which obviously we're doing a lot of both just because we are doing conversion. So that's kind of our flask slots there. And then as for the rest of our gems, Ancestral War Chief, damage boost against bossing. For clearing, we have Leap, Slam, Faster Attacks, Fortify. Obviously against bosses you want Fortify as well because it'll pretty much up your defenses. I have Portal Gem, Precision, Auras, Herald of Ice, Herald of Purity, Hatred, attach that to an Enlighten, pretty simple there. Helmet, Frost Bomb, cast when damage taken. This is going to give enemies cold exposure. Super useful against bosses. I keep this as low as possible because I want this pretty much up 24/7 against bosses, as it is going to be huge for you. Rallying Cry and Enduring Cry. Rallying Cry, almost a 30-second duration. So pretty much you can cast this, go through about quarter, however much of the map you can get through in the time that you can get through it. Stuff like that. And then Enduring Cry is only about 3, just shy of 4 seconds, and I just keep that on left click because I want that one up 24/7, as this is the one giving us our endurance charges and our life regen. If you find room for it somewhere, I'm sure I probably could make room over here. Cast 1 damage taken Immortal Call would also be pretty helpful to this build, as you're almost always going to have max endurance charges, since this is only on a 1.5 second cooldown. Never hurts to have more ways to mitigate damage. Over here, Double Strike does pretty much just wasting a slot for me, just leveling it. Berserk, going to be used against bosses. Less damage taken, more attack speed, more attack damage, and Blood Rage. Blood Rage is going to be used for clearing, that way we can generate frenzy charges, that way we can attack just ridiculously fast overall. So for the most part, that is the build. If you want, you can dip out now. Other than that, I'm going to run through this map that I got about halfway through and then decided to hop out. But if you want to check out the clear speed of it, go ahead, continue on. Other than that, you can feel free, if you want to, like, comment, subscribe. I'm not really going to tell you how to live your life. If you would, follow me on Twitch, always appreciate that. And if you just want to go check out the path of building down below, I have that there for you as well. But let's go ahead and get into this map real quick. But as you can see, we pretty much just completely annihilate packs. It takes like a second. You can obviously run this on Delirium. I didn't run Delirium with this one. I'll probably do a Delirium clip afterwards. But like I said, you're pretty much going to be completely annihilating everything and freezing it. As you can see, pretty much nothing can move once I get my first couple hits on them. But yeah, that's pretty much the build for you guys. Took a big hit right there, not really a big deal. Don't forget to activate Blood Rage, don't be an idiot like me. And we'll try the boss. Boss is gonna probably blow. Oh, and we just wasted our thing. And as you can see, we can pretty much burn freeze bosses. Not quite to burn freeze levels yet, but we can take them out pretty quick. Oh, never mind. There you go. Oh, okay. He earthquaked. Alright, like I said, pop Blood Rage, pop your Rallying Cry right at the beginning of the map. And after that, just go ahead and clear and go. Oop, come on. I probably should have picked a map with less rocks. Probably would have been a better idea. Can't really see my Tribal Fury doing the work, but Tribal Fury actually does quite a bit for this build. Get another Rallying Cry up. And yeah, it's pretty much clear the build. Delirium isn't too much of an issue, just make sure you avoid those ground effects. But yeah. Contained items are fully linked. Cool, maybe we'll get 6 link. Maybe not, probably not. Yeah, avoid those ground effects. They don't feel good, that's for sure. Activate another Rallying Cry in here. Back to Enduring Cry. Yeah, like I said, build's pretty much work in progress. Other than that, that's pretty much what the clear looks like. Single target still needs some work. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time.